Trigger warning for a mention of drug addiction and eating disorders at the very end of the video. I'll tell you when. If you've never heard or read the term hip singing before, I guarantee you know it by ear. We all have ears. Most people's ears function, and many of those people have functioning brain-ear connections, and within that group, anyone who has any hearing at all can hear this phenomenon. I say phenomenon, I mean problem, because it's audible at any range, and if you have any ear, to coin a phrase, for speech and or lyrical music, you've probably picked up on it already. Even if you don't listen to the radio, by which I mean music of the past decade at least, if you've been in a supermarket,
those perilous summits will not hold me back anymore.
or a restaurant,
Well, let's say sleepy time for the ones who choose their heart.
or in any office where the receptionist is allowed to have the TV on with sound, as well as the radio or Spotify or whatever we're calling music these days. If you're that receptionist, stop it! Then you've heard more and more kids these days singing with not their normal national and regional accent.
That's not my name. They call me Quaker, but I'm a liar.
Or that quasi-American accent that even British rockers sing in.
You say you're gonna leave, you know the lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die.
Or even a regional accent that's inexplicably become indicative of the genre.
And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's meant to be broken, I just want you to know who I am.
But something else entirely. A new, self-imposed speech impediment. Y eso lo digo como ciudadana española. How does this tie in with crooners, and what even is a crooner? Well, young spuds, back in my day we didn't even have the Boomerang TV channel, much less this newfangled streaming. So we had to get up early on Saturday mornings to get our Saturday morning cartoons in. Otherwise we missed them. But you might still have heard of them. They got a little thing called staying power. So if you've grown up with an electric screen in front of your face, you probably know this froggy dude who sings a song but only when there's precisely one person to hear it. Never a crowd. That's the joke. Great cartoon. You should watch it. But if you're anything like me, you probably don't rewatch it very often. So, in your mind's ear, because he's a male frog, he must be a bullfrog. So he probably has this boomy, belty voice that sounds like Cher. A singer who fits into a category that I didn't mention previously. A voice so idiosyncratic, so unique to that specific person, that anybody doing an impression can put a hat on it.
If I could turn back time. If I could turn back time. Snap out of it.
But I happened to break into the song recently in front of my partner, and he stopped me because he had in fact rewatched the cartoon recently, and the frog doesn't sound like Cher. He sounds like that guy who used to sing through a megaphone. Gen X. They're not old, but they're old enough. I knew about Bugs Bunny only eating carrots because of Clark Gable, and It Happened One Night because I love me some black and white movies, but I had never even heard of Rudy Valet. I was like, do you mean Rudy Valentino? And he was like, no, I do not. So if you've heard of Michigan J. Frog, you, even if inadvertently, know what a crooner sounds like. Michigan J. Frog is the one who sings like Rudy Valet, but even my partner didn't know that he'd been murdered by Warner Brothers chairman Garth Ansier in 2005. The frog, that is, not my partner. This has been today's episode of Pronouns Are Important, and you should always be precise with your language. But why on earth does this matter? Because the invention of and improvement upon microphones led to an entirely new style of singing which we named crooning, and therefore anyone who sings in this style we call crooners to this day. Well, only male artists, generally tenors, were crooners. The music genre is very romantic and or sentimental.
Don't like this annoying song you're singing to me over and over again. It's very repetitive. In my day, songs were not repetitive. It was, I don't want to set my thoughts on fire. Johnny Boy Douglas Jr. sang that one.
I would say that going by the non-musical definition of crooning, female artists do often croon to this day, but when they do, it's generally sexual, sometimes overtly so, and the romance is optional. Male crooners sing songs that sound like lullabies. When female artists croon, they're choosing to sound like sexy babies that just woke up. Thank you, Vocal Fry.
I've heard people say that before, like that voice that girls use, like this, it sounds like a horny, sleepy baby.
If this is the first time you've ever heard of the term vocal fry, you're one of today's lucky 10,000. Take it away, XKCD. Either way, crooning is something that can only be done with newer microphones. Back in the day, no one got a career as a singer unless they could fill a room with their voice because that was a basic requirement. It still is on Broadway. That's why Idina Menzel, Ethel Merman, and Julie Andrews are their own archetypes. All of this murmuring and whispering kind of music is extremely recent in a way that newer generations don't necessarily realize because of the current glut. In cultures with 4 walls and a roof, and/or hills and mountains and livestock that need to be herded over them, vocal music historically has always carried over long distances. And that's the middle of my Venn diagram. By virtue of volume and by virtue of this new vocal phenomenon, neither of these techniques would exist at all if it weren't for modern microphones, and that's a measure of how easily they can be wiped out. By that token, purists don't necessarily enjoy these techniques, and when they're in style, purists just kind of have to hunker down and wait for the fad to pass, or for the sweet release of death, whichever comes first. Yes, there has historically been an overemphasis on uniformity of pronunciation, and especially on there being a quote-unquote genteel, high-class way of sounding, such that everything else was regarded as garbage. But as Lin-Manuel Miranda told Anthony Ramos,
well, you never need to change the way you speak, you just need to make sure people understand you.
And that's what's being lost with hip singing. I can no longer tell where someone's from if they put it on. All these people are pretending to be from somewhere that does not exist on Earth, and that's a complete and utter tragedy. Regional and local accents are already, instead of being preserved and passed down, overwhelmingly washed away by Americanization of accent and speech pattern and vocabulary, and once they're gone, we cannot get them back. Fight this. Preserve your cultural heritage and be proud of it. I am as proud of your cultural heritage as I am of mine, I promise. Okay, so that's why we have the whispery voiced ukulele girl, but why does she pronounce her words like that when she sings? Because she certainly doesn't do it when she talks. The only explanation I have found, in fact, the only theory I have seen posted, is that it began in Amy Winehouse's days and has only gotten out of hand since then. R.I.P. you lovely lady, may your memory be a blessing. In this one and only video I found on the topic, YouTuber Amy Nolte Music calls it hip singing as a portmanteau of hipster and singing, which makes sense given the era that it started in, the era of
We saw, oh brother, where art thou? And said, let's start a band right now. Our clothing and our songs are hand-me-downs. Spoon solo!
But that doesn't explain how or why it's infiltrated most genres, much less why it's perhaps most highly concentrated in today's pop. I will give an honorable mention to Craig Christie's video because it gives a little know your meme type rundown on how we English speakers have been noticing but struggling to uniformly name this phenomenon for a while. I would like to put in a strong word for mindless millennial diphthong roulette. The kids are calling it singing in cursive, but I don't quite agree because Miss Adana Duru makes different mouth noises when she's doing an impression of that style, and commenters mention different artists from those who are generally recognized as singing in cursive when she does so. But she does get closer to it when she does her camp rock impression.
I said, singing, chasing. You're the one that's always going through my daydream.
Either way, neither video I've just mentioned can definitively point to this phenomenon's origin, much less explain its dissemination, so as of filming, this mystery remains unsolved. I'll give you a little update if and when I find out. Second trigger warning for a mention of drug addiction and eating disorders, and the video here if this would currently trigger you. Be safe, take care, I love you, you are worthy, see you next time. A quick note that it wasn't Amy's drug abuse that killed her, but rather that her eating disorder had gotten severe enough that it physically could no longer withstand what it was going through, so it could not carry her through to safety, to recovery, to solving her own problems. So this is your reminder that no matter what you're going through, your body can carry you through it better if it's fed. All calories are nourishment and fuel. Your body needs fat and carbs as much as protein, I promise. I'll be linking some resources in the description. Take care, you are worthy, I love you, see you next time.